You talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down. Bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Like always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, very fun topic right here on Keek on the Mic today, as the report out of Chicago is this. Matt Eberflus already sees one big improvement in Justin Fields. We all know that when Matt Eberflus was hired, one of his biggest tasks was to help Justin Fields develop. And obviously, since he was hired back in January, he got right to work and watching every piece of tape regarding Justin Fields. And during his recent press conference, Eberflus was asked what has stood out the most with his young quarterback, and he said that based on the tape he watched from last year, it is clear as day that Fields has improved his footwork and timing. This is honestly a really good thing to hear. It means that Justin Fields is progressing. I know we just talked about it yesterday, how we wanted to see the baby steps, right? We don't want to see like the huge leap all at once, right? But we understand that it's going to maybe take a little bit longer, right? The baby steps. That's what Eberflus and Poles are trying to do. Build up Justin Fields, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But obviously, this is encouraging and really good to hear, especially when you look at Justin Fields' tape from his rookie year. He did have some constant issues, and one of those constant issues was how sporadic his footwork became when defenses applied pressure. Obviously, this often led to him bailing out and just taking off and running. Obviously, we can say, yes, the offense line was bad. The play calling and scheming was bad. But more often than not, Justin Fields' footwork was all over the place, and he instantly just took off and ran, and this usually led to him maybe throwing off balance as well, which also led to incompletions and interceptions. Another thing that you really saw last year in Justin Fields' game was he had a tendency to unload the ball late because his progression through a play took too long. And this is something that a lot of analysts said about Justin Fields. One of the knocks about Justin Fields coming out of college is that he did take a really long time through his progressions. One of the reasons why he was able to do that at Ohio State was he had a really good offensive line. Obviously, once again, he comes to Chicago, not a good offensive line at all. He had a head coach and offensive staff that didn't scheme around him, and it was just a terrible year for the offensive side of the football for the Chicago Bears. And that doesn't help a young quarterback like Justin Fields. And obviously, when you take too long to progress, this can often lead to mistakes like interceptions as well, turnovers as well. And it also led to him taking a lot of unnecessary hits, because when you're holding the ball for too long, you're allowing the defensive players and the pass rush to get home and get those sack numbers up. And when you really look at this issue in general, the Bears' offensive line gave up the most sacks in the NFL last season. And yes, the offensive line was bad, but also there were a handful of sacks, especially when you kind of hone in on that Cleveland Browns game. There was a handful of sacks that, yes, they were on Justin Fields because he held on to the ball way too long. But listening to what Matt Eberflus had to say in his recent press conference, it's really great to hear that he is encouraged by Fields' progress. And obviously, when Luke Getsy was hired, Matt Eberflus instantly went out and hired Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy, this was one of the first things that he corrected, is Justin Fields' footwork and timing, especially when you look at the offensive scheme that Luke Getsy is bringing to Chicago. You need to have really good footwork, and you need to be able to have good timing in this offense and able for this offense to be able to work. So it seems like right now that it's paying off. All the work that Luke Getsy is doing, all the work that Andrew Janeko, the quarterback coach, are doing right now for Justin Fields, it seems like it's working off and paying off right now, and it seems like Justin Fields is going at a really good pace and developing really well. And something that I want you guys to realize as we talk about this, about Justin Fields progressing, they want to get Justin Fields to a point where it feels natural, to where he stays balanced inside the pocket, and he has that feeling and avoiding pressure while staying on time within the play. So yes, being good, having that good pocket presence, not always just taking off and running. And that's the thing that we have to realize. They don't want his first instinct to be just taking off and run, right? They want him to be a natural quarterback in the pocket. And yes, I know some of you guys will say, well, Our offensive line is still terrible, still a work in progress, and I totally understand that. And obviously there will be times where Justin Fields will need to take off. I don't think they're saying, hey, don't run at all. We understand that your legs are going to be a huge asset to this offense as well, but they just want him to try to stay in the pocket and use that good footwork, use that timing as much as possible to be that natural balanced quarterback inside the pocket. So, yes, they are trying to get him to a point where even if there is pressure, he will be smart enough and quick enough to just take that quick dump-off option to maybe like a David Montgomery, right? Quick screens to Velus Jones, Darnell Mooney, right? But to be able to maintain that good footwork and just be more balanced inside the pocket. So it makes sense. Obviously, Justin Fields is still a work in progress, and as he gets better with his footwork and his timing, I feel like the better the offense will be able to maneuver as long as Justin Fields keeps progressing and keeps working on these little minor adjustments that he is working on during the Chicago Bears training camp. So, like I just mentioned, Justin Fields still has a lot of work to do, but everything seems to be going good so far. And I know that we've been talking about Justin Fields a lot, but obviously Justin Fields is the centerpiece of this whole operation, of this whole rebuild that Ryan Poles is doing for the Chicago Bears. And obviously, if Justin Fields doesn't work out, then we are back to square one trying to look for a new quarterback. So I am just super anxious to see all the hard work come all together and finally see the Chicago Bears play in a short time from now. But before I let you guys go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Kick on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll be back for an all-new Bears podcast right here on Kick on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.